The unraveling of love and fortune. Rohan and Rachel had been inseparable since their college days. Their love story was one for the ages, filled with laughter, adventure, and dreams of a bright future. After marriage, Rohan worked tirelessly to provide for Rachel, who had quit her job to focus on their home. However, as time went by, the cracks in their relationship began to show. One fateful day, Rachel, now a successful businesswoman, filed for divorce, citing irreconcilable differences. Rohan was devastated. He had given his all to their marriage, and the thought of losing Rachel was unbearable. The divorce was finalized, and Rohan found himself homeless, struggling to cope with the loss of his partner and his home. 5 years went by, and Rachel's fortune grew. She became a millionaire, owning several properties and businesses. Rohan, on the other hand, was still struggling to find his footing. He had hit rock bottom, and his life was a mess. One day, Rohan mustered up the courage to visit Rachel at her luxurious mansion. He was greeted by the gates of her opulent home, and as he entered, he was met with a mixture of emotions. Rachel, now a powerful and successful woman, looked at Rohan with a complex expression, a blend of nostalgia, guilt, and curiosity. Rohan's eyes welled up with tears as he begged Rachel to take him back in, to let him live with her in her home. He promised to be her servant, her driver, or anything she desired. He just wanted a roof over his head and a chance to be near the woman he still loved. Rachel was taken aback by Rohan's plea. She had never seen him so broken, so desperate. As she looked into his eyes, she saw the man she once loved, the man she had promised to cherish and support. But she also saw the man who had failed to adapt, who had failed to grow with her. In that moment, Rachel was torn. Part of her wanted to help Rohan, to give him another chance. But another part of her was wary, knowing that their past issues still lingered. As she stood there, frozen in indecision, Rohan's fate hung in the balance. Rachel's mind wandered back to the days when they were happy, when their love was new and exciting. She remembered the laughter, the adventures, and the late-night conversations about their dreams. But she also remembered the fights, the disagreements, and the feeling of suffocation that had driven her to seek a divorce. As Rohan waited for her response, Rachel knew she had to make a decision. She could take him back, try to rekindle the flame that had once burned so brightly between them. Or she could turn him away, leaving him to fend for himself once again. The silence between them was palpable, heavy with unspoken words and unresolved emotions. Rohan's eyes pleaded with Rachel, begging her to take pity on him. But Rachel's heart was a battleground, torn between her past love and her present reality. In the end, Rachel's compassion won out. She nodded, ever so slightly, and Rohan's face lit up with hope. "You can stay," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "But it's not going to be easy. You'll have to prove yourself to me, prove that you're willing to change and grow." Rohan's eyes filled with tears as he nodded, grateful for a second chance. He knew it wouldn't be easy, but he was willing to do whatever it took to win Rachel back, to prove his love for her. As he looked at her, he saw a glimmer of hope, a chance to redeem himself and rebuild their relationship. But as they stood there, surrounded by the opulence of Rachel's mansion, Rohan couldn't help but wonder what the future held. Would they be able to rekindle their love, or would their past issues tear them apart once again? Only time would tell. As Rohan settled into Rachel's mansion, he was determined to prove himself. He took on various tasks, from cooking and cleaning to managing Rachel's businesses. He worked tirelessly, trying to regain her trust and affection. Rachel, on the other hand, was cautious. She had given Rohan a second chance, but she wasn't sure if he was truly committed to changing. She watched him closely, observing his every move, waiting to see if he would slip up. As the days turned into weeks, Rohan began to notice subtle changes in Rachel. She seemed more relaxed around him, more willing to talk and laugh. He sensed a glimmer of hope and pressed on, determined to win her back. One evening, as they sat down for dinner, Rachel turned to Rohan and asked, "Why did you really come back here? Was it just for a place to stay, or is there something more?" Rohan looked into her eyes, his voice filled with emotion. "I came back because I realized I still love you, Rachel. I know I messed up in the past, but I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make it right." Rachel's expression softened, and for a moment, Rohan saw a glimmer of the woman he once knew. "I appreciate your honesty," she said. "But trust needs to be earned. Let's take things one step at a time." Rohan nodded, feeling a sense of hope. He knew he had a long way to go, but he was willing to do the work. As they continued to talk and share meals together, Rohan began to feel a sense of belonging he hadn't felt in years, but just as things were starting to look up, Rohan's past came back to haunt him. An old friend from his homeless days showed up at the mansion, asking for help. Rohan was torn between his loyalty to his friend and his desire to prove himself to Rachel. What would he do? Would he prioritize his past or his future? The decision would change everything. Rohan's friend, Alex, had been a constant presence in his life during his darkest days. They had struggled together, sharing what little they had, and Rohan had considered him a brother. But now, as Rohan stood in Rachel's mansion, he felt a pang of guilt and uncertainty. "Hey, man, what's going on?" Rohan asked, trying to play it cool as he stepped outside to talk to Alex. "Just trying to get by, bro," Alex replied, his eyes scanning the luxurious surroundings. "I saw you on TV, didn't recognize you at first. You're living large now, huh?" Rohan nodded, feeling a mix of emotions. "Yeah, things have changed. But I'm still the same person." Alex's expression turned serious. "I need your help, Rohan. I'm in a tight spot, and I don't know who else to turn to." Rohan hesitated, weighing his options. He knew that helping Alex could jeopardize his chances with Rachel, but he also couldn't turn his back on his friend. "What's going on, Alex?" Rohan asked, his voice low. Alex explained that he was in trouble with some shady characters, and Rohan knew he had to help. He promised Alex that he would do what he could, but he also knew that he had to be careful. As Rohan returned to the mansion, he was met with Rachel's curious gaze. "Who was that?" she asked, her eyes narrowing slightly. Rohan took a deep breath, deciding to be honest. "An old friend from my homeless days. He's in trouble, and I promised to help him out." Rachel's expression was unreadable, and Rohan's heart sank. Had he just made a mistake? "I see," Rachel said finally. "And how do you plan to help him?" Rohan explained the situation, and Rachel listened intently. When he finished, she nodded thoughtfully. "I understand that you want to help your friend, but we need to be careful. Let's discuss this further and see what we can do to help him without putting ourselves in danger." Rohan felt a wave of relief wash over him. Rachel was willing to listen and help, and that was all he could ask for, but as they sat down to discuss the situation, Rohan couldn't shake the feeling that his past was about to collide with his present in ways he couldn't control. What would happen next? Would Rachel's trust in him be shaken, or would they find a way to navigate this challenge together?